When I first married David, I thought I had found the partner I would grow old with. He wasn't perfect, but he was charming in a way that drew people in. To friends and family, we looked like the couple who had it all together. We built our home on laughter, shared plans, and what I thought was mutual respect. I wanted to believe in the dream of us, even when tiny cracks began to show. The car was more than just a car to me. It was a symbol of everything I believed we were building. I worked hard, saved even harder, and when I finally bought it, I felt like it was ours, a representation of stability and progress. Every time I slipped the keys into his hand and watched him drive it, I told myself I was giving him not just trust, but a piece of my heart. But then there were the late nights. The phone calls that ended when I entered the room. The messages he brushed off as work stuff. At first, I convinced myself I was overthinking it. After all, suspicion can be poison in a marriage. And I wanted to be a good wife, the kind who trusted her husband completely. Still, there was a lingering heaviness in my chest, the kind that whispered something was wrong. Even when I tried to silence it, David became restless, distracted. Some nights, he came home smelling faintly of a perfume I didn't own. Other times, he seemed almost guilty when he looked at me, though he quickly masked it with a smile. I told myself that stress was eating at him. Maybe money troubles, maybe work pressure. I wanted to believe in him more than I wanted to believe my own instincts. One evening, we sat in the car together after a dinner out. The city lights reflected off the windshield. As I told him how proud I was of what we were building, how the car felt like just the beginning of our bigger dreams, he squeezed my hand and promised, "This is only the start for us. You'll see." His words soothed me, but looking back, I realized he was speaking in half-truths. It was the start of something, just not the life I imagined. I clung to the illusion of happiness, blind to the betrayal simmering beneath the surface. The car sat in the driveway like a loyal companion, gleaming in the sunlight, unaware of the role it was about to play in unraveling my marriage. I had no idea that soon it would vanish, along with the last pieces of trust I had in the man I thought was my forever. Love makes you see what you want to see. And in those early days, I wanted to see a husband who loved me as deeply as I loved him. I didn't know the storm was already gathering, that the car I bought to symbolize unity would become the weapon of his betrayal. It was a quiet Saturday morning when the world shifted under my feet. I stepped outside, coffee in hand, ready to run a few errands. The sun was shining, the neighborhood calm, birds singing their usual chorus. But the driveway was empty. Our car was gone. At first, I stood there frozen, staring at the vacant patch of concrete as though my eyes were playing tricks on me. I checked the street, glanced at the curb, even walked a few paces in each direction. Nothing. The car had vanished. When David emerged from the house, I was frantic. "The car is gone. Did you take it last night? Did you park it somewhere else?" He blinked at me, his face a mask of confusion, then frustration. "What do you mean gone? You're saying it was stolen?" The word hit me like a punch. Stolen. He paced the driveway, running his hand through his hair, muttering curses under his breath. Damn it. This is just what we needed. Who would steal it? My heart pounded as I dialed the police, reporting the missing vehicle. David hovered near me, listening intently to every word I said, interjecting with false outrage whenever the officer asked a question. He played the role of the distressed husband so convincingly that for a moment, I almost believed him. Almost. But there was something about his performance that didn't sit right. His anger seemed rehearsed, his concern too polished. He didn't look devastated, he looked inconvenienced. The police came, filled out a report, and promised to update us. David wrapped an arm around me as if to comfort me, whispering, "Don't worry, babe. Insurance will handle this. We'll get through it. His voice was steady, reassuring. And yet, I couldn't shake the way his eyes flickered when I looked at him too long, as if holding back a secret. The following days dragged on. I felt violated, imagining strangers driving the car I had worked so hard to buy. David kept reminding me that cars were just things. Replaceable, nothing to lose sleep over. What matters is us, he said one night, his hand sliding over mine. But his words rang hollow. It wasn't just the car that was missing anymore. It was my trust. Then came the slip. One evening, while he was in the shower, his phone buzzed on the nightstand. Normally, I wouldn't have touched it, but something in my gut pushed me. The message preview was from a name I didn't recognize. Thanks again for helping me out. You're my hero. My stomach twisted. I didn't need more words. I suddenly saw everything clearly. The restless nights, the staged panic, the way he brushed off my concerns. The car wasn't stolen. It was sold. And the money had gone to someone else, a woman who called him her hero. My hand shook as I placed his phone back down, my heart pounding with a mixture of rage and heartbreak. The betrayal was no longer a suspicion. It was fact. The car was gone. But now, so was my marriage. The message on his phone was like a crack of thunder, tearing through the silence I had been forcing myself to live in. Thanks again for helping me out. You're my hero. Those words kept echoing in my head, louder and louder, until I could barely hear my own thoughts. That night, I didn't confront him. I lay beside him, listening to the steady rhythm of his breathing, wondering how long he had been lying to me. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the driveway empty, saw the missing car, and then saw that message glowing on his screen like a cruel confirmation. The next morning, I decided I couldn't live in the shadows anymore. I went digging. It didn't take long. A few calls to places I knew he frequented. A quiet conversation with a mutual friend who looked at me with pity instead of surprise. And the truth came crushing down. David hadn't just sold the car, he had sold it quickly, cheaply, to a man he knew, and funneled the money straight into the hands of his secret girlfriend. Her name was Melissa. I still remember the first time I heard it attached to his betrayal. She was younger, pretty in a careless sort of way, and she had been in his life far longer than I'd ever imagined. While I was saving to buy that car, believing I was building a future for us, he was building a double life with her. The anger that rose inside me was unlike anything I had ever felt. It was hot, sharp, and yet beneath it was a cold, cutting clarity. I wasn't just hurt, I was insulted. He hadn't only betrayed me, he had underestimated me. He thought his lies were strong enough to bind me to ignorance forever. I remember staring at myself in the mirror that evening, my hands gripping the sink so tightly, my knuckles turned white. Tears blurred my reflection, but beneath the sorrow was steel. No more, I whispered. That was the night I decided I would take back what was mine. I started by tracing the sale. It took phone calls, persistence, and swallowing my pride to ask questions I never wanted to. Piece by piece, the truth came together like a grotesque puzzle. The buyer was sympathetic when he realized the situation. If I had known, I'd never have bought it, he admitted. Your husband made it sound urgent. Urgent for Melissa. I clenched my fists, my anger burning hotter than my grief. That car was more than metal and wheels. It was a part of my sacrifice, my devotion, my trust. And he had ripped it away, thinking I'd stay silent, thinking I'd keep swallowing lies. But he didn't know me as well as he thought. The ugly truth had broken my heart, yes, but it also awakened something far stronger inside me. He had taken my car, my money, my trust, but he would not take my dignity. And if he thought I was going to let him win, he had no idea who he was married to. The night I uncovered the full truth, I barely slept. My mind replayed every lie David had told me, every excuse, every false smile. The betrayal burned, but what kept me awake wasn't just anger, it was resolve. He had stolen something that belonged to me, and I wasn't going to sit back while he flaunted my sacrifice on another woman. The next morning, I called the man who had bought the car. His voice was calm, almost apologetic, as he told me he still had it. "I didn't know it was yours," he said softly. "If I had, I never would have touched the deal." He said it was his, and I believed him. I assured him he wasn't the one who needed to feel guilty. "David lied to both of us," I said, my tone sharper than I intended. "But I'm not leaving this undone." By the end of the week, after a tense exchange of paperwork and more money than I should have had to spend, the car was back in my possession. When I slid into the driver's seat, gripping the familiar steering wheel, a wave of emotions washed over me. Relief, pride, even a flicker of joy, but underneath it all, fury. This car should never have left my driveway. I remember driving home that day, the engine humming like a loyal friend returned after a long absence. As the wind rushed past the windows, I made a silent promise to myself. This wasn't just about the car anymore. It was about reclaiming every part of me he had tried to diminish. When David saw the car parked in front of our house again, his face drained of color. He stood frozen on the porch, his lips parting in shock. For once, he had no slick excuse, no clever lie. Only silence. "Surprised?" I asked, stepping out of the driver's seat. My voice was calm, too calm. "Did you really think I wouldn't find out? That I wouldn't fight to take back what's mine?" He stammered, his hands twitching as though he wanted to reach out but knew better. I was going to tell you." "Save it," I snapped. "You weren't going to tell me anything. You thought you could steal from me, lie to me, and get away with it." For the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. Not the kind of fear that comes from guilt, but the fear of someone losing control. He had always been the one manipulating, pulling strings, hiding behind charm. But now I was the one standing tall, and he was the one cornered. I walked past him without another word, the sound of my heels striking the pavement louder than his shallow breathing. The car was back, yes. But the marriage? That was gone. That night, I sat behind the wheel one more time, staring at the reflection of the house in the rearview mirror. The car was mine again. The power was mine again. And soon, my freedom would be too. The first battle was over. The war, the divorce, was only just beginning. Filing for divorce was like breathing for the first time after being held underwater. The papers were heavy in my hands, but with each signature, I felt lighter, stronger. This wasn't just about ending a marriage. It was about reclaiming my life. David didn't take it well. He tried to charm me back at first, sending half-hearted apologies, promising that Melissa meant nothing, swearing he'd change. When that didn't work, he turned hostile. "You'll regret this," he hissed one evening when I refused to answer his calls. "You think you can win? I'll make sure you leave with nothing." But I wasn't the same woman who once ignored her instincts to protect his ego. I was prepared now. I had evidence of his lies, records of the car sale, messages between him and his mistress. Every thread of betrayal he thought was hidden, I had pulled into the light. The day of the hearing, I dressed in calm determination. Neutral tones, hair neatly pulled back, my face a mask of composure. But inside, my heart thudded like a drum. The courtroom was cold, filled with the quiet murmur of voices and the shuffling of papers. When David walked in, his eyes searched mine, but I didn't flinch. I didn't even blink. He looked smaller somehow. Maybe it was the weight of exposure, or maybe it was just that I no longer saw him through the haze of love. He sat across from me, fidgeting, trying to project confidence he didn't have. The judge entered, and the room fell silent. My lawyer presented the case with precision. laying out every fact like sharp glass on the table. The sale of the car, the hidden relationship, the financial betrayal. David squirmed in his seat, sweat gathering at his temple. When it was his turn, he tried to spin his web. "I made mistakes," he said, his voice dripping with rehearsed remorse. "But I loved my wife. The car was mine too, and I only did what I thought was best for us." The judge's expression didn't change. My lawyer countered swiftly, presenting the proof that the car had been bought with my savings alone, and that David had transferred the money straight to Melissa's account. Gasps rippled through the room as the truth laid itself bare. David's voice faltered. His lies collapsed under the weight of evidence. In that moment, I felt something shift inside me. The power he once held was gone, scattered like ashes. When the ruling was read, I held my breath. The divorce was granted in my favor. The assets, what little remained after his recklessness, were mine. Justice had spoken, and it spoke for me. I walked out of that courtroom taller than I'd ever stood. Behind me, David sat hunched over, a man stripped of his pride, his security, his illusions. The gavel had fallen, and with it, the last of my chains. The marriage was over. My freedom was restored. But his fall had only just begun. After the ruling, life took on a strange silence. The chaos that had consumed my nights, the lies, the suspicion, the anger was gone. For the first time in years, I woke up without the weight of David's shadow hanging over me. Freedom was both foreign and exhilarating, like stepping out into sunlight after years locked in a windowless room. But freedom for me was destruction for him. David had always leaned on me more than he admitted. I had been the one who managed the bills, the one who saved, the one who kept us afloat when he stumbled. When the court severed our lives, he lost not just me, but the stability I had built for both of us. At first, I heard whispers through mutual acquaintances. He was struggling to pay rent, bouncing from couch to couch. Melissa, his secret girlfriend, wasn't the savior he thought she'd be. She wanted the gifts, the money, the thrill, not the burden of a man unraveling. Within weeks, she was gone, leaving him alone with his mistakes. I should have felt pity. A part of me, the part that once loved him, wanted to. But every time I remembered the empty driveway, the staged panic, the phone glowing with her messages, the pity withered. Choices had led him here. His choices. I spotted him once, months later, by sheer accident. I was driving the very car he had tried to take from me when I saw him on the sidewalk. His clothes rumpled, his face gaunt. He was sitting on the edge of a public bench, staring at nothing. For a moment, he looked like a stranger. Our eyes met. Recognition flickered in his, followed by shame. He shifted uncomfortably, as though my gaze burned. I slowed, considering should I stop? Should I offer him something? But then I remembered the countless nights I had cried myself to sleep, the lies he had spoon-fed me, the betrayal he had chosen again and again. I drove on, because here's the truth. Not every fall deserves a hand to catch it. My life moved forward. I poured my energy into rebuilding myself, rediscovering who I was outside of the wreckage of our marriage. The car became more than just transportation. It became a symbol of resilience. Every time I slid into the driver's seat, I remembered the strength it took to reclaim it, to reclaim myself. David, on the other hand, became a ghost of who he once pretended to be. Friends stopped speaking his name. He drifted, untethered, the same way he had once drifted through our marriage. Only now there was no one left to anchor him. Justice doesn't always come in the form of a gavel or a ruling. Sometimes, justice is watching someone drown in the very waters they created, while you walk safely on the shore you built with your own hands. I lost a husband, yes, but I gained something far more powerful: clarity, strength, and peace. And as I look back now, I don't see a tragedy. I see a victory. because in the end, I didn't just take back my car. I took back myself.